Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's live stream. Sorry we're just a tad bit late, but if you're in my Discord, then you'll know the reason for that. We had an unscheduled electron flow interruption over the weekend, and just now was the first time I could take away from doing other stuff to actually get in here and double check stuff, and wouldn't you know it, some of my settings went away. But I got them all working. You're not the first person to say that, Nala. No. But welcome to the stream. Welcome everybody else that's watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching this in the VOD or the, live action replay, as we call it here on YouTube, I would imagine. If you're watching any of this stuff live and you have any questions about anything we're doing, feel free to drop them down in the chat below. The bot, if it's actually working, should be pointing that out from time to time. Feel no worries about distracting us from what it is we might be doing in order to answer your question, because that's kind of what we're here for in the first place. Pardon my lighting setup, But part of that unscheduled electron flow was my work laptop semi-exploded. Maybe. Specifically, either the docking station or the power adapter. The power went out, the power came back. I pushed the power button on the laptop over here to my left, and it said, your power supply is a 60-watt power supply, but you need a 65-watt power supply to run at peak efficiency. And I said, weird. I don't care. Let's go. I don't want peak efficiency. Less than peak efficiency will be good for me. And what it would allow me to do is try to boot again to see if suddenly more power was coming down the wire, and run a diagnostic. Running the diagnostic made a lot of beeps that scared the dog, and then it came back to the, you don't have a powerful enough power supply. So I remembered when we originally got these things, they gave us the docking station, and they gave us the power supply with the docking station, and then they also gave us another power supply as well. So I thought, let's find that. I found it, I dug it out, I looked at it, it's 65 watt. Bully, we're hooked up, we're good to go. So I crawled under the desk, I pulled out the old one, I plugged in the new one, I climbed up on the top of the desk, plugged stuff in, then I turned it on, and nothing happened. And I thought, oh crap. But then I noticed that the power supply from under the desk that I was using was 130 watt, and it thought it was 60 watt. So I plugged it directly into the laptop, and now things are cool. There's not enough space under my desk for a UPS for all of the systems that are in here, and it wouldn't have helped in, well, it might have helped in this particular case, but everything is plugged into protected power bars. However, this is a rather old relic. The keyboard doesn't work on it. There's a little light that blinks right in the corner. I'm pointing at it. You can't really see it. Which has been blinking nonstop for about 9 months now, which is the magic Dell code for your battery bust, bro. But since I work strictly from home and this laptop never leaves the desk, I never really paid much attention to it. However, it would appear maybe that's actually a problem. We're pondering the idea that the fact that the battery is corked is why it won't start now with the dock, because it's not quite getting enough power and it thinks it wants to supplement it from. But in any case, it has been an exciting time. Naturally, 99% of everything worked and then 1% didn't, which includes the text-to-speech in the bot. And I don't know what's wrong with that, because it seems like it should be working just fine. It worked once, and then it stopped. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. But that's something that I can fiddle with maybe tomorrow evening if I can find some time. For right now, we're actually here to do some coding on some stuff. So now is the time in the stream when I push the button that allows us to do the coding. No fooling, the button actually says do coding right on it. So that's what we have to do now. Although technically speaking, we do spend a fair part of time chatting. As you can see up there in the chat, maybe because YouTube chat works a little weird and different than it does the one for Twitch. Have a question, feel free to shout it out in the chat. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. But in the meantime, what we are actually working on is, and I don't even have all of the stuff that I would normally have running, my override audit package. There's something that we did last stream to get stuff going. It was very tempting. It's funny too, because at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, at the end of last year, I should say, not the end of this year, because I don't have a DeLorean. I mean, I have a bunch of DeLoreans, but none of them actually work. They don't go back in time. We got a new manager on the project at work, and we all mentioned how everything is working very, very, very slowly. And he saw the specs for the laptops we had and said, when were these last updated? And we said, I don't know, 4 years ago. He's like, you're eligible for a work laptop upgrade every 2 years. And we're like, that's fantastic. Nobody ever told us about that. We've all just sort of kept going until things exploded. And he said, I'm going to take care of that. So we started the ball rolling, and that was in last December. And as of 3 weeks ago, laptops were actually purchased, and they asked us, what would you like to have installed on them? And we told them, and they said, meh, we'll install some other stuff instead. So now I'm getting a laptop with SQL Server 2016 installed on it, because everybody needs one of those. So in fact, it's kind of nice that this happened, because I got to send a mail that said, I don't know if anybody has actually sent out that laptop to me or not. If you have, it's been a long time. You might want to give me a tracking number so I can make sure that I actually get it. But if you haven't, you might want to step that up, because I think my docking station exploded and there's a blinky light on the thing that says that the battery is busted and I can only use one monitor and I'm going slightly blind and I don't know, it could break at any point. I've also been noticing that sometimes, maybe this is just a Windows thing, that I save a file and it doesn't look like it's saved when you look in the directory listing, even after you press F5, and then I try to save it again and Windows is like, that file already exists, you want to replace it? And I say no, and then it appears. So maybe the hard drive's broken too. Might want to step that up a little bit. So I may have gotten myself some sort of I could potentially have the thing by Friday, maybe. Fingers crossed. But breaking stuff is the best way to get stuff working, I find. Now, speaking of breaking stuff, what is it that we're actually doing here? We are trying to come up with a new feature / bug fix type release for my override audit package, which I haven't done anything with in a bit. It had the functionality that I, was interested in having. We spent a bunch of time working on some stuff a long time ago. But by and large, if things aren't broken, don't try to fix them, right? It's my theory. Anyway, so, but somebody started asking some questions about a feature that I've actually kind of been working on the side for a long time. So now's the time to actually buckle down. I might even do something like this on my Twitch stream. Oh, we'll see. But in order to do that, what I want to do, because I'm a selfish programmer, is to help everybody by coming up with a bug fix version of this thing, so that I can roll out one more version that supports Sublime Text 3 and then cut over to only supporting Sublime Text 4. With that, we're going to have the ability to add some extra cool features, such as this one, which I can't show you right now because that's not the branch that we're actually on right now, but it allows some stuff that we're doing to take advantage of some new features of Sublime Text that are only available in Sublime Text 4. It would technically be possible to construct this code such that it would work with Sublime Text 3 and 4, but that takes more time, and then it's a larger support burden to support older versions of the software. So, as, I don't know, the world's lamest impetus to actually upgrade this package, or upgrade your copy of Sublime Text if you haven't already, what we're going to do is just cut over to these things Sublime Text 4. But I want to put out one more release for Sublime Text 3 as sort of a legacy thing, because it's easier to cut the repository over that way in the way that we add packages to package control. I thought what we could do is investigate something like this. We have the ability, when we hover over the name of a package, to display this information about what this package actually is. So this tells us that the default package is from Sublime Text version 41 or build 4131, which is the latest development version. This particular plugin or package, its plugins run in the Python 3.8 runtime. This package provides default Sublime Text functionality that's not provided by the underlying application core. There are two overridden package resources, although there's one of them expired. We can only see one of them in this table behind us, but that's because, as you can see in the tab, this is the expired overrides only report. From this, we can also run some extra commands. Just to show you the other parts, the override report is this one. It's going to have the paste from history, and it's also going to have this other file that is available here, like so. Right? That's why it says there's two overridden package resources and one of them is expired. This tells us that this package is something that ships with Sublime Text. It's not in the installed packages folder, which is because it ships with Sublime Text, but it is in the packages folder, which is what allows there to be overrides in the first place. And there's a couple of things we can do here. One, we can view the differences in this, which will automatically show us what package files are different and how they're different. So I have added in those lines and I've removed that line to this line. It's basically so that I can use a paste from history and use a quick panel instead. And also my regex replace widget Sublime settings file has this in it, which I'm pretty sure I actually don't even need to be there any longer, all else being equal. But what we don't have is some indication of what this means. I know that it means that this override is expired, but it would be nice if we could hover the mouse over that to see. And similarly, it would be nice if we could hover the mouse over this to know what this question mark means, which is that this is a file that appears in the unpacked version of a package that is otherwise installed, which makes this potentially an override, except there is no such file in the underlying package. So as a result, there's a question mark there to let you know if you thought you had added this to a package, you didn't. But also, if it's something that you overrode, it no longer exists. It might not need to be there anymore, which is why they will display in here. It's actually possible to turn those off via settings if you don't like. So what we're going to try to do is make a hover pop-up that will pop up when we hover over either of those two things. And additionally, this particular pop-up will let us know about a package and that it ships with Sublime. It's in installed packages and it's in the packages folder. You might notice from looking at this hover pop-up that there's a ships with Sublime and in packages folder, and there's an S and a U in this thing here. And similarly for Outliner, there's an installed packages folder and in packages folder. And the reason for that is that this, is a package that's installed and also overridden. And there's also an I and a U on there as well. So that little tag, it's a short little version. Yeah. Well, you know that, but various people don't. And in order to make things slightly more useful to people, we're going to try to make hover pop-ups on those as well. And how we left this last stream is that we added a specific scope to this. This is a meta package specifier. It covers only the text that's inside the brackets. You see it in the second item in the scope there. Also in the brackets on the end. That was so that if we could hover over this if we wanted to and get everything. For these, similarly, this is meta override expired, and this one is meta override unknown. So last Monday, we thought about what we were going to do, and then we made the syntax changes to apply specific scopes to those things so that we can actually create the pop-ups. So now's the time when we actually have to create such pop-ups. Now I'm kind of torn on this. If you're watching this right now, tell me what you think. But one thing that we could do is try to make it so that if you hover over these, you get this. Or we could make it so that when you hover over this, it's a separate pop-up that's just 3 checkboxes that says the S, the I, and the U, so you can see which one is which, and a description of what those 3 things are. So that you could easily look at this and go like, what's that? Oh, it's installed and it's unpacked. Issue with that, the package report, which lists all packages, has these items spread out in sort of a little matrix like this, which may or may not be an interesting situation. For various technical reasons, they need to be on the right-hand side. They can't be on the left. So it made sense to make it look more like a table. So it's very easy to look down and say shipped, 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 or installed, 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 or which things are unpacked, 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 without necessarily having to try to pluck it out of one of these other ones, which is more compact. And these are more compact here in the override report, the expired override report. Bulk diff reports have them as well, because these are meant to convey other information, and there's just a little bit of an info bump there for you to know. In case you wanted to know, this package is a package that ships with Sublime. Anything that has an override in it always has a U in that column. So all else being equal, if you're seeing something, you're pretty much seeing either SU or IU in this particular case. So for these, there's also a default scope on these. That one is entity package shipped. That one's not going to be anything, but this one's entity package installed. And this one is entity package unpacked, so that we can do the exact same thing for each of those as well. I'm also been pondering the idea that we could use a symbol transform, because this thing shows a list of all of the packages that exist. Ooh, and right now we're, oh my, did we actually oh no, that's kind information for other reasons. That's a bit of an unfortunate. That might be a bring ahead item in the to-do for later. This is probably a P because it is a keyword. It's selected as a keyword because that allows us to map an appropriate color on it. We don't actually want it to be a keyword though. So that's something that we may need to think about as well for this stuff. Ultimately, we would love to have our own kind information in there. I'm pretty sure you can do that, although off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure. Sure, I wonder about that. If we add an extra thing in there, will that go away? I'm curious now, so we shall play. I'm just going to move a bunch of these things back down. Could use the keyboard for that. I'm not going to do it. The thing that we are curious about, actually we'll leave this one up here because it's the package report. So that's the one that has a list of packages. The same thing that actually works here as well. And here you actually get to see this is the package, these are the overrides, so you can easily jump to specific things with this thing as well. That should also work in the override report and in the regular override report, so one we were looking at before, right? Easily jump to all that stuff. You're never going to see that kind information show up in this one, however, because of the way that this actually works. There's more than one of those because of all of the things at the end, like PyAML. Those are all, and pigments. They're all kind of set up the same way. That's an intriguing bit of information. So, yeah, let's see. This is the syntax for package reports, let's say. Those are the boxin. Hello, Ashwin. How you doing? Does that do anything, you think? Probably got to do that in the appropriate report, huh? Nope, it still plucks that out, huh? Intriguing. Hey Ashwin, do you remember how to add kind information for symbols? Or is it something that's actually built in out if you don't do it from a plugin? Because it's been so long I don't remember. If this wasn't here, that would go away as far as the color is concerned, I would think. Oh. It's that part that's doing it, isn't it? Yeah. Let's check the documentation and see. Yeah, sorry about that. I really wish that there was something I could do about that. Hopefully they're going to change that at some point because they're trying to make this the next big... maybe under syntaxes? Probably, huh? Maybe. Not there. I think that's how that works anyway. No kind info in that. Oh. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Maybe it's in the API docs it's actually mentioned. Come on. Pre-constructed options include 3-element tuple, blah, blah, blah. Those are used for other things, though. Yeah. I remember Will talking about it, but I never paid super attention to it because I don't do syntax stuff, generally speaking. I wonder. Is Sublime Text 4 good? Yes. Hello, Mohammed. Welcome. I don't think you misunderstood it, but here's the situation that we have. All right, just to show you this. By the way, Mohammed, if you have any questions about Sublime Text, feel free to ask them. Even though we're working on something else, we are here first and foremost to be able to speak out loud, but also to provide help where possible. So we're working on my override audit package. You may or may not know this, but in all of the different kinds of reports that you can create, the symbol list shows you the names of packages and the names of overrides as well. So if you wanted to jump directly down to the Python package, you could type pi and jump directly there. That usually makes more sense in something like one of these, where you might quickly want to jump to a specific thing, right? Now, the situation we have here is that in order to provide colors for these things, there are scopes that are associated with them that aren't technically, this is an entity name package enabled in this particular case. And this is an entity name file name override. Entity.name is something that's normally in these things. When we get to the actual package report, there's an indication of packages that are actually dependencies. And those have a scope that includes storage.modifier. And anything that's a storage.modifier has a kind information of keyword. Well, that says keyword, so it might actually be the other one that's pulling it. I'm not entirely sure which of those things that it is, but ideally, we don't want that P to be off to the side. So if we could figure out a way to provide our own kind information to this, that would be cool. I'm not 100% sure that will actually is something that we can actually do, though. I can't remember. I know how to use kind information for things like quick list items and list input items and command palette stuff. Well, I guess that's list input items, but not necessarily that. Yeah, have a question about regex? We can answer a question about regex, possibly. Except for if you want to know whether it's pronounced regex or regex, because I've always said regex for that, because regex, regular expression, is what it stands for, and I pronounce the G like a G and not like a J, but I also say GIF and not GIF, so, it's one of those things that probably causes virtual fistfights all over the internet as a whole. Plugins may specify kind information. Oh, thank you. Good news, everyone. There's an open issue for it, and Community Docs had an open issue for documenting. Yeah. Issue number 30, you say? Well, I might even have a GitHub. No, I don't have one open here, I don't think. Hang on. It's Torpo, Speedpin. Those are all overlay things. Yeah, must be on this window. Hang tight. Whoa. There it is. Hey, Dev, how do? I am doing well. We're going to look at issues, and we're going to specifically look at issue number 30. Is it in this one? Because that seems weird. Or is it like a package issue? I'm assuming I'm misunderstanding that. Oh, Community Docs has an open issue for it. Never mind. Yeah, as soon as I looked backwards through the thing. When I see issue, I immediately think this. Oh, actually, that's not what I meant to do. Go back. It's been a heck of a few days, Dev. I will tell you that. I was telling the chat earlier today earlier in the stream, rather. That counts as earlier today. My work laptop kind of blowed up a little bit. No, just I'm feeling pretty good. The cough is a lot better. If you've been in some of the last few streams, we got that's feeling a lot better than it has in a few days, so that's good. Just kind of a work-related issue because the docking station for my laptop is no longer functional, or the power adapter for it isn't generating as much power as it should. One of the two. I have a new laptop coming, and I've asked them to expedite it. But in the meantime, getting work done is tricky. If you've ever worked with more than one monitor, there's a general theory that says when you're working with N monitors and you do it on a regular basis, having to work with N-1 or fewer monitors is a lot harder, which holds for all values of N greater than or equal to 0, or greater than or equal to 1, rather. So if you're used to working with one monitor and then you don't have one, you're probably pretty unhappy. If you're used to working with two monitors and you cut down to only one, it feels weird because you're used to being able to look over to the side and see stuff while you're working, and now you can't. And if you're used to working with three monitors and then you have two, it's the same sort of situation. I'm used to having code here, documentation there, other stuff there, and I can look through all three. And now I only have two, and it's weird. And if I had one, it would be even worse. Never enough monitors. No, I'm not stressed about it. 3315, you say. Let's go back to that then. Does it say anything about from Death Axe? Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there's not. Oh, aha. That'll not help me at all. Right. Because I'm already logged in. Go away. Is there a way to follow that without logging in first? I'm supposing not, huh? I got no choice. I'll just do it over here. And then it'll jump me there in Discord and life will be good. That's the theory anyway. Let's see. I guess I gotta pick something like this, and then I gotta pick something like this, and then I gotta remember where the thing is. And I gotta scan a QR code, and then I gotta hold my phone over here like this. Technology is fantastic. Yeah, that one. Come on, guy. It's not going to get more focused than that, man. Even I can read it, and I'm an old man. Thank you. Yes, I'm trying to log in on the computer. It's perfectly fine. the current set of internal scope to kind mappings is. Ah, okay. I was right. It is the, well, I mean, I know I was right because the storage.modifier is the thing that actually did it. But nevertheless, that is the list of sadness. Anything we use from here is going to cause a problem. One of the problems or things that I was going to actually fix is changing this to use a slightly different mechanism so that we could control this better, and it wouldn't be necessarily based on scopes that it has no business being based on, basically. All else being equal, the reason why all of these things use the scope that they do is because I found the colors that were in Monokai pleasing, you know? Never the way to go. I've been thinking of one of those. You'll never miss your monitors? Oh, I always miss my monitors. I agree. Yeah. Ashwin, re the kind information situation. So, that's neither here nor there for this particular situation. It's just something that I noticed that it would be nice if that wasn't a thing that actually does stuff. I'm surprised that there's only one of those that's actually hitting in there, if I'm being perfectly honest. In theory, if we change that to something that's not in this that's also red, it would probably just go away and everything would still work the same. But, yeah, I'm going to stick that over there for the time being. Whoops, I missed. There we go. All right, I don't need you, my friend. You are good to go. So, what do we think about how these pop-ups should work? I really miss Monokai. It's the color scheme that I used for the longest time because it is the default. Let's see if this works. If not, give it a minute because the bot's kind of slow. There we go. The font is called Yoshevka. The first link will take you to the GitHub for it because it's a freely available font. The second one will take you to a download of a zip file that includes the version that I'm using here. There's a bunch of different ones in there. The ones that have term in the name are meant for the terminal. So this font, for example, is the same as the font that's in the editor here. If you can sort of see how that's playing. The difference is this doesn't have ligatures in it, which is why it's good as a terminal font. Seems to be quite popular. I modified my theme to change the sidebar to be a more monospace type file as an example of how to do it, and now I really quite like it. All right, this is for the actual eventy type stuff. So, with a little bit of refactoring, we could make it so that we don't really worry about that, my guy. And the one that we actually want to have up here is this one. Let's say. Oh, nope, sorry. We want the other one. Because there's a few different things that we can do here. I think first things first, pop up for that and pop up for that. And possibly, because of how these things work, pop up for that and that and that as well. Because those are all single character things. Then we ponder, what do we do for these? Do we want to trigger a pop-up on just the S and just the I and just the U. So if you can narrow your mouse in on the right spot, it'll tell you what that character means. Or do we make it so that if you hover over this, it just displays the whole information for you? I like that better, including the brackets or the parentheses or these they're square brackets that are on here, because then you don't have to aim with your mouse quite as robustly, if you will. And then for these, it would basically be that information from the bottom row all in there. I would assume that we would also do that with check marks. They would be arranged in a slightly different way. They'd be arranged top down instead of left right, and there would be some information in there about what they actually are. The part of everything about this is pretty easy to pull off, all things being equal, except for the part where we have to write HTML to actually make it do something, because that part's going to be a little bit more tricky. Only because I'm terrible at HTML in general. So, where is this actually defined? There's a whole directory called package popup, or a whole thing called package popup. Makes sense. Because there's a fair bit of stuff that's happening in this thing. Oh, that's right. There's extra stuff in here, isn't there? I forgot about those. Oh, hey, maybe we're going to get a little handier here. I'm not entirely sure where those actually pop up. To be perfectly honest, I'd forgotten all about them. Maybe they're not actually used right now. No, they totally are. If link name starts with package. Oh wait, is that actually the contents of these things? Yeah. All right, never mind. That's less That's less interesting. No, there's totally a back. Huh. I forget how my own package works. That can't be good, right? Those aren't links. Oh, this thing here. Right, okay. I remember now. This doesn't contain any overridden packages. In order for a package to support overridden resources, it has to be represented by both a Sublime package file, either shipped as Sublime or in the installed packages folder, as well as being represented in the unpacked packages folder. This package does not fit that category, and thus it's not possible for this package to contain any overridden packages. Exactly. I think that might only happen in here. As a matter of fact, I would guarantee that that can only happen here because all of this is the only report that will show you all packages. The other reports that we can generate are override reports and diff reports, and by definition, those have to be for packages that can contain overrides. So, if we hover over this one, this package may contain overridden packages. What's the other help that's in there so we can verify all of those? Only the only one, right? I think. That was the one that we just saw for no override. Description. Oh yeah, we're never gonna see one of these things because very few people create a complete override of a whole package. But if you did, there's totally help for it. All right, so that makes sense why you never really see that sort of thing. Swank. I suppose, but that really breaks the whole situation there. It does technically run in both, doesn't it? Well, does it run in both? Or is it just sort of loaded in one? I think it runs in 3.8, but it's made available so that you can import symbols from it from 3.3 because so many packages do that, and otherwise it would be broken. Is there something about that in the... thing here? No magic, huh? Well, unless it's in the other file. Can't imagine that it would be, though. Something that happens in the internals, one would presume. But yeah. I guess. It's supposed to be the version that the package runs in. The trick to that right now, and the reason why that's there at all, is because, first of all, it's only there for packages that have plugins in them. And secondly, it looks for the Python version file in there to know what to display. So at some level, it's saying that because there's a Python version file that's in there. However, what would this thing actually be called is the real question. Check to see if this package contains any plugins, and this is invoked here. Self.python version equals user plugin if self.name equals user elf 3.3. Sorry, what was that? Default specifies a Python version with 3.8, but if it runs in 3.3 also, I'm not sure what that... Yeah, exactly. I think most plugin... I think it was intended that it would only ever run in the 1, but then it was discovered that you can't do something like... you can't do this. If you happen to be in a if you're a legacy package that exists out there in the ecosystem, that wouldn't work if there wasn't a way to bridge this across. I don't know if that actually, like, does it load a second copy of it? I'm not sure. That would be interesting. But I know that is the general reason for why that's there. For that, or you want to host multiple versions of Python on the same install. For the purposes of Sublime plugins, the reason why that file is there is to tell it, because Sublime now has more than one plugin host. Well, Sublime Text 4 does. I mean, we could totally jack this in here. The reason why this is set the way that it is to say determine what plugin host the user package runs in, which is always 3.3 in Sublime Text 3, but in newer 3.8 hosts in the 4K build series, it's that. We could do something like default plugin equals 3.8 3.3, like this, and then in the same way that we did, whoops, don't do that, guy, that's not going to work. And then jap it in here a little bit. Yeah. You have brought up an interesting situation, though. self.python version equals some dictionary object dot get. Wait, can we actually do that? Hang on, before we actually try something. Well, that's not right. Yeah. Well, thanks. No. That's kind of what we want for this. Except that this will blow it away. I don't think I have a command for that here. I know I do have a command for it in general, though. Hang on a second. This is a question that has been asked before as well, but I don't think I copied all of the commands that I normally use on Twitch to here. Or I'm misremembering. It's a Philco Magis Touch 2 104 key keyboard. The non-ninja version, because sadly there was one not available. If data and self.name not in. Theoretically, something like that would do this. We would probably want this to be up at the top. Yeah. I kind of, normally I put a lot of thought into stuff that I purchase for stuff like this because I expect a keyboard, you know, and electronics to last for a long time. But in this particular case, previous to that, I was using a Corsair K65. I think K35. Anyway, the Corsair gaming keyboard that doesn't have the macro keys on it, but what it did have going for it was it's just a flat board with the keys sticking up on posts so that you could get around underneath them and stuff. And I was drinking coffee with a travel mug, and it slipped out of my hand and banged right down onto the corner of the keyboard, which kind of caused it to stop working. And it was the middle of a work day, so I had to run to the store, and I looked at what they had available and said, that one. They're quite nice. I'm very pleased with this particular decision. I probably should have said that. Yeah. I liked that other keyboard. The only issue that I had with it is that the caps lock, num lock, and scroll lock keys wouldn't light up the indicators on the board because they did something funky unless I switched the keyboard into a particular mode, and then they would, but then it didn't type the same characters and it was more of a pain in the butt. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Ashwin, always, and thanks for the link to the issue so that we didn't spin our wheels trying to figure out what's going on there. Das Keyboard. I've heard good things about those. I've never heard of Ducky Shine, though. So in theory, that will say 3.8, huh? All right, well, I mean, that didn't work as well as it could have, all else being equal. Probably should have tested with this thing, though. 3.8, no number at all. We have that. All right, so what are we actually doing here? Load the metadata, get the package metadata. If it's a dependency, the resource name is that. Load the metadata if we can get it. If not, go away. And then if this thing contains plugins, set the Python version of this to be either the version that we get out of this version map based on the name of the package that's represented here, or 3.3. We then fetch the metadata, and if there is data and the name isn't in the version map, update the version information to that. This only happens if it contains plugins, which is why we don't see it displaying anything for any of these things. None of those actually have anything in there. This should be 3.8. That should be 3.3. That one's 3.8. That one is 3.3. Why is that not 3.8/3.3 is the real question here. Huh. Yeah. Let's take a look. Ducky Shine 4, you say. Oops. Don't need that window any longer. Let's get rid of that. Modern understated look. Double shot keys is always good. I have a rather, well, I mean, it's an expensive but still cheap in the general sense, wireless Logitech keyboard for my work laptop, so I can bring it out while I'm working and then just move it out of the way without having a cable bumping around. And it's a good thing that I can touch type, because half of the keys no longer have any writing on them. That does look quite nice. I especially like the nice layout, if you will. Larger arrow keys and full numpad. I am an old enough person that back in the day, I had an IBM XT Gigantor keyboard that had these kind of keys, but these arrow keys didn't exist at the time. So I used to using the arrow keys on the numeric keypad for stuff, and have for 38 years. So using a keyboard that doesn't have a numeric keypad is incredibly irritating to me. Especially, I don't know what thing I have that had, like the MacBook, the up and down arrows keys are super tiny. That HP Cloud back there has them as well. The left and right are really big, and then the up and down keys are half the height so that they can fit in there nicely. Ergonomically, it looks fantastic. Never in my life have I ever pushed the arrow key I actually meant to push. I'm a lot better at using these kinds of keys now than I was before. But the one that Can I zoom in on this picture? What's that? Is that a picture of a horse or something? Or a little duck? The keyboard that I miss the most, I don't know what the brand was. It was mechanical. It was clicky as hell. It drove my roommate bananas. It actually made one of my roommates move out, which was fine because nobody really liked her anyway. It's a mechanical keyboard, and it was one of the kind that was split. It was one physical keyboard, but the keys were had that little sort of a V shape, and it doesn't have the ergonomic wave. Once I found that, my typing speed increased it was fantastic. And then unfortunately, something happened to it and it stopped working. I was never able to find a replacement for it. Anytime you find a split keyboard, like I think, no, that one's not. The Microsoft Natural Wave that I have as an emergency keyboard has that, but it has the, one of them has the wave this way, so it's like I'm reaching over something to type. And the other ones have these side-to-side wave, and I'm like, I don't know if this is supposed to be ergonomic, but that's not what I like. Even now, it's been a good 20 years since I lost that thing. I still, my fingers bump into each other in the middle of the keyboard. But that is quite nice. Low profile. I like that nice solid leg, too. Lasered keycaps. Can you get it in browns? Detachable keyboard cable. You had me at hello. That's quite nice. I'm just going to move that link over to this one where I store all of the links that I'm going to look at. They're going to cost me a bajillion $T when I buy all the stuff. Nice. Huh. Just in case that doesn't do what I think it does. Oh. Did I break it? Nope. Alright. The user always runs in 3.8. Those all run in that. That's 3.3. Well, why haps does that not do what I thought it should? Kinesis Advantage 2. Ooh, what's that? Can't type. See? Oh, I've seen one of these. What's his name? Code in Public. A fellow Twitch streamer. If this was Twitch, I would call him out right now. I'm not sure that he even streams anymore. Ow, my eyes. I'm blind. But I think this is the kind of keyboard that he has. Wow, man. I wonder how that is to type on. I mean, it's got the nice hand separation, right? I'm totally down. Yeah, go away, Dark Reader. You bother me. But, I like those little tiny F keys. This thing's like $500 Canadian. Patented design features split key wells with concave shape, thumb keys, orthogonal layout, 20 degrees of tenting, and integrated palm supports with cushioned palm pads. Genuine cherry mechanical switches for premium typing, feel, and performance with less noise. What? I don't want Cherry MX Silent Red. I want Super Clicky Brown. Does it come in a Super Clicky Brown version? What's the point of having a mechanical keyboard if it's not going to make a satisfying click while you're typing on it? That doesn't make any sense. Custom layouts in QWERTY or Dvorak, on-the-fly macro recording, one-touch key remapping, Windows, Mac, and PC modes. Okay. Settings saved to keyboard, 4 meg flash, and the Smart Key app GUI for Windows. Have you ever used one? I assume that's why you want to get one, or is it just because it like looks cool and would be cool? Because I've seen people use them. I wonder if Ian uses one. I'll have to ask him. But yeah, well, I mean, if that's, now that I've looked at that, I want you to know that I find that to be an interesting keyboard, and I looked at it on Amazon, and now my wife at some point is going to go to Amazon to look for something, and it's going to recommend her a $500 keyboard, and I'm going to get in trouble. So thanks. I'll have to say, like, no, you don't understand. Someone on a live stream pointed it out to me. I don't actually want to buy one. Well, actually I do, but I'm not trying to buy one right now. I swear. No. I don't think that would actually be a problem. She asked me the other day, do you need anything from Amazon? And I said, do I need anything from Amazon? And she's like, would you like anything from Amazon? And I'm like, I don't know, what's in the wish list? And what was in the wish list was a HyperX cloud microphone. And I'm like, not really interested in that. Would be interested in another one of these mics, which are completely wireless and magnetically connected. Pardon the thunk. You could also twist them up, you know, if you like. And I'm like, I use these for videos. I use them for streams. I've been flipping between wanting to have an actual mic on the desk so that I could use earbuds and then just be more natural. I don't like the idea that if I turn my head, you get a different sound. And for videos as well. But these things like jumped up $100 once COVID hit because the components for making them are more complicated. And she's like, you could still get one of those. And I'm like, let's hold off on that. I'd like to have an emergency backup because, you know, the alternative would be trying to plug a cable into it and having a cable strung around my shoulder while I'm streaming. Not the greatest situation in the world. Yeah, it kind of does make me want to play Moonlander. This is true. Oh, what the hell? Oh, yeah, right. That's perfectly fine. All right, well, Ashwin really sent us on a whole situation here. Oh, balls. All right. I know why it did that. I just realized that information is cached. It's not calculated every time. It's calculated one time and stored in the buffer so that it doesn't have to keep fetching it time and time and time and time again. So that one doesn't Python 3.3, yes, because it's a dependency library, but it doesn't have a particular situation. This still has a version and a Python. That is a version and a Python and an actual link. That's not going to have anything exciting in it. That one's going to be 3.8. That one's going to be 3.3. The user package is going to have a 3.8. Yep. Piano is 3.8. Is it really? I don't think that's technically true. We might want to check into that. And that. I wonder if it's just defaulting anything that's... yeah, that's totally a bug. Forum reader most... Oh, well, actually, that might be in Python 3.8. We should check into that. But in any case, this is a Mod Mic wireless, by the way. They make a wireless version. They make a USB version that's wired. They used to have... Well, I guess they just have the two. Well, they have 3, but they had 3, but now they only make 2 because they sort of combined both of their models for USB into one. But I like the wireless nature to go with the wireless headset, so I can just sort of wander around as wants are. Man, I'm really dark in that thing, aren't I? I'm used to getting a little fill light from over there. Let's flip that switch on. That'll make life a little bit better for the time being. All right. I actually like that as a change. I might actually flip the order of those commits, to be perfectly honest, because that's definitely something that I could see doing something with here. Let's do this. Let's create a branch at this commit. Call it new pop-up. And then, yeah, master would have been here. And we'll just quit and restart because we just upset the universal status quo of things. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the microphone. Yeah, they built them right in the States, actually, if that's the sort of thing that you're interested in. But they sent out a message a few months ago that was like, due to the difficulty in getting parts, I'm afraid we're going to have to increase the cost of our wire. I think it was just the wireless ones because of the transceiver chip that they use or something. So anything that, if you want another one, then now's the time to buy one, because once existing stock goes away, new ones are going to cost more. And I should have gotten an extra at the time, but I didn't. So live and learn, as they say. All right, I like that. Let's clean that up. Let's make that better, because that's not necessarily the way to go about that. What's actually this file here? We're gonna cut that, and is this only used there? Yes. Is this only used there? Yes. So we can do this. Change the name of that a little bit. So we could say something like, well, we want to give that a different name, don't we? Don't do it that way, dude. I think we might go something along the lines of that. We might also want to do something like that. In the future, we're going to have to fix this. But for now, I wonder if we should not, if we really wanted to be ridiculous about this, we could look for folders named Python in here, extract the numbers from them, and go from there. Don't necessarily like it as an idea, as opposed to this. But the idea going forward in Sublime is that now that the precedent and the work has been done for there to be more than one plugin host within which plugins run, that in the future with newer versions of Python, they could create a new plugin host for a new version and keep the older plugin hosts available as well. You can use the Python version file to determine which plugin host your particular plugin should work in, and if there isn't one, it defaults to using the Python 3.3 legacy host from way back. And then they can make it so that plugin hosts are lazy loaded and are only actually started when something actually requires them. Should that ever happen, this is going to report the wrong version of stuff because it's reporting 3.8 for versions of Sublime Text 4 and 3.3 for everything else, and the same for that. Let's just very quickly see if that looks nicer. Yeah, that looks nicer. So I think we definitely want that. Some packages. They say some packages always run in specific plugin hosts. Part of this is a lie. The user package most definitely always runs in the 3.8 plugin host, and you can't change that. Theoretically, you could change the default package to only load in the 3.3 plugin host, maybe. I don't think anybody should or would or could do something like that, so we're not going to worry about it. I mean, they could try it. I don't think it'll necessarily do what you want, though. Since there's magic in the core that allows Python 3, this thing to run in multiple plugin hosts anyway. This maps the names of such packages to the versions of Python that the value of these is determined by the build, since in pre-4K builds there was only a single plugin host. And then we can say get the default version of the plugin host before we look to see if there's a thing that will override it. And yep, it's probably pretty obvious. We don't necessarily need that. So if we look at what's actually changed, Turbo plugin host the user package runs in. Okay, we got that comment. Now this used to say Python version equals that. It's defaulting to 3.3 for everything that's not available. That could potentially be something that is a variable like that. And we're saying that we only want to do this to change the version information if this is mildly wasteful, because what we're doing here is saying, first of all, set the Python version for this package that I'm scanning, whatever it is, by checking in this version map here. Then we check to see if we can load the meta file, the Python version file that exists inside of a package. Can we grab that and load it? It will return none if the file doesn't exist. If it does exist, it will return the content of the thing. And what we have it saying here now is if this actually returned data and the name of the package that we are isn't in the list of packages with a predefined version, make that the Python version for this thing, and we strip off white space to make sure that we can receive it properly. Now, for the default package, what this is going to do is set it to that 3.8/3.3. Then it's going to load the metadata file. It's going to find it, and it's not going to do anything with it. It's one package out of potentially many. It happens one time. One of those things that's not the greatest things in the world. I don't think it's worth trying to say, you know, something like if, well, I guess we could actually do that, couldn't we? How about this? Now that I'm talking this out, if name not in predefined package map, we could do this instead. then this is the same as it was before. So that we set the default based on that. If the name of this package isn't in the list of packages with predefined names, then please go and try to load the Python version file, and if you find one, set it. This way it won't do it for default. We load it, it doesn't crash. We refresh that report. That changed, right? Whoops, that's F6, pardon me. Date changes from 2448 to a blow up. Oh, shoot. I broke it. Whoopsie doodle. Let's see. 21, 24, 48, 24, 30. Default is still 3.8, 3.3. That's still 3.8 the way that it should be. That's going to be 3.3. That's not any plugins in it at all, which is nice. And refresh that one. Yep. User 3.8. That's a nice bug fix. I like that. That is a good fix. We're going to roll this into two particular situations here. So that's a particularly easy situation. Yeah, see, all of that stuff. Wait. Yeah, that line is the same. This stuff is the new, right? Yeah. I'm confused at the way that the diffs pull sometimes, but that's just sort of how Git works. So let's stage that. Let's stage that, and then say allow shipped packages to have predefined hosts. No, that's not cool. Describing a thing is always so hard. Set up list of packages with predefined plugin hosts. Previous to this, the code in the package info class. That is what that is actually called, right? I'm not just blowing smoke there. But that's what it's called. Ay, Chihuahua. Override diff result is not that. That is entirely a different thing. Package. Oh, come on, man. It's not part of the package list, is it? Can't be. It's package info. Yeah, that's what I thought. A lot has been said, Mohammed, about how I write commit messages. Would assume that the user package runs in 3.8 host. It's in a 4 build. And all other packages run in either the legacy 3.3 host, or if they have a plugin. Okay, we're gonna have you with that. The default package is special in that it straddles the plugin host and is available in both of them. Now let's say this change alters the code so that we can say that the default package in the package pop-up. Whoops, we want something akin to that is the situation. I'm not sure how well we would see for all of these. I've mentioned this many a time in my Twitch live streams that I do twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays at the same time at twitch.tv/ODatNerd. ABC or ABP, always be plugging, I guess, is the theory. It basically has to do with how, for the amount of time that I have been a professional developer, I have been responsible for not only designing and architecting and implementing large complex systems, but also supporting them and maintaining them all in the same code base. And what working in the same code base for 2 decades will tell you or teach you is that decisions that you made 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 months ago, 5 years ago are never as clear in your mind as you would want them to be. For that reason, a lot of the code that we write is fairly well commented to describe what it was that we thought the code was supposed to be doing, or the rationale for why it was doing what it was supposed to be doing, or that sort of thing. Because it's well and good to be able to look at a change and see what this actually is. You can look at this and see, oh yeah, I guess for specific packages it's setting some sort of default. But what it doesn't tell you is why you thought you should be doing that. And sometimes for certain kinds of bugs or certain kinds of maintenance, it's all well and good to be able to look at the code and say, I know exactly what this code is doing, and I have absolutely no reason why it's doing that, because it doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe the reason it doesn't make sense is because it's wrong and it's a bug. But maybe the reason it doesn't make sense is because there was a reason why you were doing it and you don't remember what it is. So because we run into that sort of situation in legacy code all the time, that's why we're rewriting it, we make a lot of comments to make sure that there's a pretty good chance that we can figure this out. And by a similar vein, when this is just all me, but when I make commit messages, I also make them explain what this change is and why that change was made. Like, after deliberation, it seems like a better name for the command that we're building would be this. You wouldn't necessarily know that that is the case, but I gave a rationale. I gave a reason. So that if I'm actually working on one of these things and I'm curious about the history of this file and what was changed, I can see all of the times this file was changed and why I thought that I should be doing that. It just seems like it makes more sense. But yeah, my future self is judging me always and forever. It's just one of those things, right? It's a habit I've gotten into. I know a lot of people don't do that. They quickly whip out code and go, check it out, it's totally cool. Or, why are you writing a comment? Your comment is going to be out of date. You're going to swing through here. You're going to modify the code. You're not going to modify the comment. The comment is going to be a lie. Me? No, I don't do that. That is a thing that can happen. I don't like for that sort of thing to be the case. I guess I won't say I don't do that because I've seen it happen. But when there's a disconnect between what the code does and what the comment says it does, that's a good time to investigate that section a little bit deeply, because either one of them could be wrong, right? That's a good way to think of it, I would say. If there's a comment that says a code does a thing and that code doesn't do that thing, well, one of two situations is happening. The comment is wrong or the code is wrong. You have to spend a little bit of time to figure out which one of those two things is actually the case. But if the problem is that the code is wrong, then you're never probably going to notice it as much as you would notice it as if you were scrolling by reading stuff and there was a comment that didn't agree with it. If you just saw what it was doing, you probably have a higher probability of glossing over that particular change. this is all supposition on my part, but this, there's a method to my extreme madness, if you will. All right, so that part's good. So now we just have to wonder why are all packages that are commented out, or not commented out, why are all packages that are disabled the 3.8 plugin host? Hey, Ben. How you doing? Quick question for you. Is the default package loaded into both plugin hosts, or is it just available to both plugin hosts? We were sort of looking at the package's ability to tell you that a package loads in the 3.8 plugin host or the 3.3 plugin host, and the default package was displaying 3.8 because it has a Python version file in it, and then Ashwin pointed out, shouldn't it be both? And I thought, well, I mean, it has a Python version file in it, but now that I'm thinking about it, I guess it kind of makes sense to know that it's in for like legacy reasons, but we couldn't remember if it's actually like loaded or bridged, or what the magic is behind the scenes. But in a greater sense, outside of asking you technical questions, how's your day been? Or how's your day starting? I can't remember how time zones work at any given point in time. Which reminds me, I have to remember to log my time for the day before I walk away from my desk. In the interim, all right. Oh, well, maybe it's doing that because those packages actually are. Maybe that's not actually a bug at all. I would imagine that Forum Reader is in fact a. Whoops. A 3.8 thing because we were doing something with it specifically. Yeah. Well, that's handy at least. We didn't bust anything, so that's nice. I worked for a Wild West company and a starkly well-organized firm. I understand documentation goes a long way. Yeah, and everybody wants documentation for processes, but no one wants to write the documentation, and no one wants to update the documentation, and to a large degree, no one wants to read the documentation, as far as I've been able to tell. People want it, though. They want it real bad. We do what we can. We like to say at work that a portion of the reason why we comment stuff like this is to point the finger, because sometimes business will come to us and tell us, we want you to do this. And we say, why? That doesn't make any sense. And they have some sort of circuitous Byzantine business logic for why this thing that doesn't seem like a thing that should actually be done is a thing that they want done. And we're like, all right, if you're sure about that, I will implement that. And what we do is add in a comment that say, this code does this. I don't know why it does this. It was requested by this person on this date as a part of this change, and here's the logic of why this is happening. Because better than even odd, someone's going to come to us a year or more down the line and be, why the hell is that happening? And we're going to say, well, Jim told us on April 2nd that we should divide all the prices by 2. He had a reason for it. It's been doing that for 2 years. Take it up with Jim. Want me to remove it? I totally made it a section of code that I could easily comment out. Just available? I figured that was kind of like the case, specifically so that if you could try to import, like from default .exec import exec command, but you didn't want that to like blow up. So I'm assuming then that it would just sort of be available, not loaded, but load that file and maybe like hot load it as it's going, or I kind of like the idea that it provides you that knowledge that, yeah, it kind of runs in both plugin hosts. Jim's a jerk at times. We've had people, let's call him Jim, that will say something like, it might be helpful to know that I work in the finance industry, working with stock data, that Jim would come to us and say, I was looking at how we processed the messages for IBM, and the price that we reported wasn't what this other vendor reported for the same time of the day. And I looked through all of the messages, and I found the one where the price that we're reporting came. And I noticed that the fourth character in it happened to be a Q. Maybe we should reject price updates if the fourth character is a Q. What do you think? And say, well, Jim, I think that you should check the documentation from the vendor to see what the fourth character does, and maybe have a statistical sample of larger than 1 before we start throwing away messages for that reason. Because that sounds spurious, Jim. That sounds real spurious. Jim wants to watch the world burn, I think, is the situation that we have there. All right, before we forget what it is that we're doing here, we're going to we'll say this is a version 2.2.5. Yeah. Pound sand is a thing that we say. I've noticed that it's a phrase that not everybody has run across. Pound sand, Jim. Pound sand. Well, what does that even mean? Please go away, find a large rock, and turn it into sand, if you wouldn't mind, Jim. Welcome back, Ashwin. Would also like to pick your ear about rejecting all packages with names that have spaces in them. Yeah. I kid. Hover. Wait, hang on a second. What was actually? Oh. What? Where did we go to? What's 60? Okay. The hover pop-up for package information will now display all. Has been updated so that the default package appears to be available in all of the plugin hosts. Yeah, I'm using the word available because that's what Ben said. Not necessarily. Python file can just sit there until somebody actually asks for it. Plugins are loaded automatically. That's what makes them plugins, right? So same sort of situation applies. In the particular case of override audit, for example, this file named packages isn't loaded at all unless something imports it. And then once something imports it for the first time, that's what causes it to be loaded and added to the list of modules in the thing. And then other attempts to load it will automatically pull them out of the module cache, but it doesn't necessarily have to be loaded for somebody to do the import. If that distinction makes any sense and isn't a lie. But, you know, my track record on that today of all days is not really all that great. I'm still really confused about what was happening with that person where the plugin had to have a static method on it for it to work, because that just seems really weird. And I apologize once again wholeheartedly and unreservedly for conflating in my head that static methods and class methods are the same thing. In my defense, I'm a C programmer. That'll be good. And one space. That would be my guess. Yeah. I mean, that would mean that there's technically two versions of the exec command going at that particular point, because there's one running in one plugin host and one running in the other plugin host. But that's kind of an interesting implication, isn't it? Because when a file is loaded, when a plugin is when a Python file is loaded as a plugin, or, you know, the symbols that it exports lets it, so the core or the plugin host know, or the code in the Sublime plugin.py file, what things are commands and event listeners and the like, so that it can actually add them to the list of things. So if you were to create a plugin with a command name that's the same as one of the ones that's in default, because the user package loads last, it overrides the one that was provided by the default package, which allows you to replace the command wholesale without actually using an override. So if there's two plugin hosts and exec isn't actually loaded in the 3.3 plugin host by default, it's just made available to it, then if Python 3.3 code tries to exec command exec, it actually gets routed to the exec command that's in the 3.8 host, which makes sense, because I would imagine, not knowing the internals of Sublime, that call goes up into the core, and the core is responsible for actually executing the command. So, you know, why wouldn't it be able to just pluck the version out of the other thing? Does it only just provide the... How does it actually work then if it needs that? I guess it doesn't need to... Never actually loaded. Alright, I could see that. Does it just provide... Well, I mean, loaded in the traditional sense, because if you imported it and then subclassed it, that class still has to do what the base class does, right? But I can appreciate the distinction there between actually loading it and not, for the purposes of that. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, it's right, gotcha. Yeah, that makes more sense, I suppose. I mean, I think that's the same implication that I was thinking in my head, but not the technical, how that might actually be carried out, because I hadn't actually thought that far. But, That's intriguing. Is there a de facto way to know how many plugin hosts there are from one of the plugins? I ask because I'm currently hard coding the 2 of them. The default package, sorry, did in the default package are something along the lines of that. There should be a couple of those. We like to keep this sort of situation. If you subclass, for example, from well, I mean, if it's not a plugin, then it's still a class. It's just not a plugin, right? This, technically speaking, everything in here, all of these commands aren't plugins. This is just a Python module. So these are just classes that they happen to become commands when they're exported out to the plugin host. But without that, there's nothing special about them that makes them a class other than what the plugin host does with the symbol that has that name, if that makes sense. There's not a default debugger that is available in Sublime, Ben. It's a sophisticated text editor, but it's not technically an IDE. That said, there is a package, which I don't personally use, called debugger. Are you using that? I've never used it myself, so I'm not sure exactly about that. But it uses the debug adapter protocol, which is similar to the similar in concept to the language server protocol that LSP uses to provide code intelligence. It provides a bridge between external debugging tools and Sublime. I would imagine if you were using it and you could type the word break properly, that it might have no documentation there. The project attempts to match Visual Studio's debugger fairly closely, so you could do that, I suppose. You know, I may well play around with this at work to see how well this actually works. Hey, Canal. Yeah, I have technically very rarely use a debugger in the traditional sense, but when I do, it's always GDB from the command line. But yeah, I would definitely play around with this package. And I believe it's on the list of packages for actually creating a video about, I think. Let me see. Thanks, List Up, you big boop. I am almost always human, except for that couple of the few days where I had the COVID. I felt less human on those days. I mostly just felt like a blob of sleepiness. Package coverage. Wow, it's not in there. How did that happen? Hang on. We'll add it in there now. We'll move it up over here. Whoops. Uh-oh. There we go. Well, that's not how the alphabet works, so we'll just do that. Problem solved. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. Interesting times. let's add that to this commit. Is that all the stuff that we need to do for this? Change log. Yes. The messages. So if we check very quickly, we told it that if someone installs 2.2.4, it should display the, 2.2.5, it should display the file 2.2.5. The file that it should display is 2.2.5, which is this text, which needs to be further modified for the date when we actually release it. It has a short little blurb so that you know that there's something new and exciting that's happening in there, and then the changelog has a larger version of it. And we'll just go ahead and amend that into the previous branch, or a previous commit, rather. All right, that's one thing. Oh, and we have hit the, no, we still got a few minutes here. We still got a few minutes. We need to decide how we want to do this stuff. So I like the idea of the single characters having a pop-up that says, this is a package that ships with Sublime Text. It's stored in a special folder. This is a package that was installed by you or package control. It's installed as a Sublime package file in the installed packages directory. And this is a package. This package exists unpacked in the packages folder, in a folder named after the package itself. And then it could also have extra information in there to say, this package may contain overrides because this package is shipped or installed. You know, however we want to lay that bit of stuff out. Similarly, this override is expired. The version of your override on disk is older than the version inside of the package that it's overriding. You may want to double check that this override is still up to date and or still required. This is a file that is inside of the unpacked packages folder of a package and would be considered an override, except that it's not actually part of the underlying package. This could indicate that you forgot to add it to a package while you were creating one, or it could indicate that you created an override and the package updated and this is no longer an override. You may want to take a look at this. Something along the lines of that is what we're sort of going for those. Those are all fairly easy to do stuff with. This package currently does not contain, it would look something similar to this. I'm using Slackware 14.2. I'm kind of behind. I should be running Slackware 14.5, but I'm waiting for my coworker who's currently playing around with it to make sure that everything is kosher and tell me about any issues that I might run into with my day-to-day. He's being my guinea pig. The windowing environment that I'm using is XFCE, the cholesterol-free window manager. The information that we're talking about for being able to display on hover over these boxes here and over these boxes is the stuff that comes from there, but it's related to what you see in these little help blurbs. So you would hover over it, it would pop this up. It might not say zero package control loader. It might say shipped package or installed package or unpacked package or expired override or whatever. But, you know, that's the general idea. So what would we like it to display for these? We've expressed a couple of different things. This is the last bit of information that we have here. And we're going to be jumping on out of here in just a few minutes. So I like to keep these streams a little bit shorter so I can get some other stuff done on my Monday nights. A little bit of behind the scenes video action stuff that I've been working on. We can make this such that hovering over individual letters does something that describes what a shipped, installed, and unpacked package are, exactly as it would for one of these. Or we could do something for all of them in general. And I kinda... The original thought that I had was it could just display this as an extension of what that pop-up already displays, or it could display just these 3 items stacked and checked. But if we're going to make these have their own pop-ups similar to this, then perhaps for these we could do the same thing. I guess what we also kind of want is the ability to maybe summon the pop-up with a key binding. I don't know how useful that might actually be. Whoops. Might be down with something like that as a potential default key, as an additional little change there. But yeah, if this was cool enough and smart enough to be able to hit that and know that that's what it should do, that might make sense. Then you'd be like, what the hell does this mean? Oh. In the same way that you could do it there, but, you know. If we can provide more information, I think that seems nice. For the time being, though, whoops, I lost track of what I was doing there because of my little list of stuff. I think it is time to say good evening. So what we're going to do is say thank you for everybody for hanging out with me tonight while we were doing stuff. There will be a live stream at the exact same time next week as well. At the exact same time, I will be clicking the schedule button or making it publicly available as soon as this one finishes. If you want to go over anything that we did here tonight, check down in the link, the description of the video. There should be a link to a Sublime Text live playlist. If not, there's one on the channel, and there should be one in every video. The live replay will be available, including chat, but it will be marked as unlisted. That's the word that I'm looking for here. I will see you on Monday. I also stream on Wednesdays and Thursdays on Twitch as well. I'll still be using Sublime Text. We'll be working on a slightly different project. We're actually doing some animations in HTML and JavaScript for integration with Twitch. But if you have any questions about Sublime Text during a Twitch stream, you feel free to ask that question there the exact same way as you would here, because helping people is what I do. For now, we're going to jump on out. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Hoping to see you in another live stream. And until the next time, please have a sublime day. Good night, everybody.